Hi everyone, and welcome to part 2 of the Art Deco Mansion speed build. Today's part is of course going to be all about the interior since the last time I got the whole exterior done. And as I mentioned in the last part, while I was trying to make a house that felt like it was a 1930s Art Deco, I wasn't trying to create something that felt like a time capsule of a house from that era. So I wanted to have things in the house that felt like maybe their original details and other things that felt like a callback to that era, but at the same time I also wanted this house to feel sleek and modern and more up to date. So that's the line I was trying to walk with the furnishing of this house because I wanted to feel modern and sleek, but yet glamorous at the same time. And that is something that worked really well, and I had a lot of fun furnishing this house. It was definitely a different style than what I usually do, but I am really happy with how it turned out. Like, it turned out better than I thought it would. So right now I'm furnishing the more casual living area. So this is of course where the TV is. It also has that really nice Art Deco fireplace from Vintage Glamour stuff. And then there's another room off to the side that is more of the formal living area. And that is where I use more of the furniture that did come with Vintage Glamour stuff because I was trying to not overuse the furniture from that pack in this house. You know, I didn't want there to be that Vintage Glamour stuff couch wherever there's a couch. I didn't want to just repeat the same set over and over again. So I thought this Spa Day couch set worked pretty well in here. So this room has a little bit more of that sleek and modern feel than some of the other rooms do. And I did also do a little bit more research on the Art Deco style before doing the commentary for this video because I just wanted to brush up my knowledge a little bit and learn more. So what I did find is that the streamlined style I was saying I made this house in is actually kind of a separate form of Art Deco that has a name. So it's called Streamlined Modern, and it's modern with an E on the end of it for some reason. And as I mentioned, it was something that came about during the Great Depression because obviously money's a little bit harder to come by during that era, so things had to be toned down a little bit, cheaper materials had to be used, so as a result of that, the buildings became less ornamented. And something else I found is that the 1920s Art Deco had more of an emphasis on vertical lines, so that's why when you think of Art Deco theaters, you think of these buildings that have that step facade, they have large vertical motifs on them. But then with this house, it's more horizontally focused. So the details on it or on those buildings draw your eyes out more so than up. So this building definitely falls more into that streamlined modern category. So that is why you have those horizontal slats on the windows that kind of helps with drawing your eye outwards. And then something I do add at the very end of this house is some trim up above the second level. That definitely helped a lot with really getting this house to feel like that style because I felt like the house was missing something. Like, it needed a little bit more. Like, I wanted this house to be simple, but it just needed one more thing. So when I made that last touch to it, that definitely helped a lot with it. So that was pretty cool to learn all of those different things. And I also read that Art Deco was a response to the more ornate styles that were previously common, like Art Nouveau, for example. It was kind of a rebellion against that. So rather than having this more traditional flowery feel, it, of course, has a more geometric, sleek line kind of a feel, so it was definitely more of a push to just be overall modern and to move forward. So I just find little things like that fascinating. I mean, there's definitely a lot that I don't know about this style, but I just wanted to share those things that I did find out with you all. But we're done with that more casual living area, so currently I'm working on the more formal one. So as I mentioned, we do have more of that vintage glamour furniture in here, and we also have a piano in the corner. That definitely felt like something that would be fitting for this house, and I really like how this room turned out. I also used those teardrop lights throughout this house a lot. I know they're probably not really Art Deco, but that was just one of those things I felt were something that were put into this house later on just to kind of make it feel more updated and modern. So that is why you'll see stuff like that where, it's kind of like, as I mentioned, it's like someone wanted to keep some of the original touches, but then we're like, you know what, I'm going to swap out this old light fixture for something that's a little bit more modern, a little bit more to my taste. And in the last part, I was also saying that I was thinking about furnishing this house for someone who's maybe an athlete or some sort of sports star. And that actually is the direction that I went in with this house. So you may have seen those jerseys I put on the wall in that room. And then that second bedroom that's upstairs does end up being furnished as a gym. I mean, you don't necessarily have to use it for an athlete, but that's definitely what I was imagining in my head as I was doing this, but it's definitely not super heavy in that direction. So if you wanted to, you could always just use this house for an actor who is maybe really into sports and keeping up on their fitness, or a music producer. You know, you can always just swap things around to suit your taste a little bit more. But currently we're onto the kitchen, and originally I had this very gray and black color scheme to it, and I just wasn't really feeling it. So in a little bit I do add some more contrast to the coloring in this kitchen because it just did not feel impressive enough like this, and I really wanted this to be a kitchen that just felt impressive and over the top and very fancy. And as I kind of mentioned in the last part, I was trying to not go too overboard with clutter in this build. So this kitchen doesn't have nearly as much clutter in it as I would normally put in my builds, because, you know, normally I like to have a dish drawing rack by the sink and just cups and plates and whatever junk just sitting around. Like, I just like to have this kind of messy look. But this kitchen has more purposeful decorative clutter in it where there is clutter, and there is a lot of just empty counter space. Because I just didn't think it would really suit this house at all to have stuff all over the place. So I think shortly is where I go in and change out the color scheme, but right now I'm just trying to figure out where I'm going to put the appliances and what appliances I'm going to have, and getting a few of the decorations in. So we do, of course, have the paper towel rack and the soap bottle. You know, you definitely got to have those. And then I end up putting a little plant, a little decorative flower on the other side of the sink. And that's really it for the decorations on that island area in there. And then we just add a few things over to this area, like the kitchen utensils. And then here's where I'm finally going through and switching up the color scheme a little bit. So as you can see, what I did was I put that checkered flooring in the middle around the island, and then we just have the plain black tile around the edges of the kitchen, and I thought that looked so cool. It was something that felt elegant and something that really felt like a callback to how this house may have originally been. I also changed the brick behind the cabinets to be white, which contrasted so much better with the cabinets and just looks more striking. And then on the walls that didn't have bricks, I just replaced that with black. And all of those changes just really helped to make this kitchen feel more dramatic, more striking, just more suiting of a grander, more luxurious house like this. And I really like that brick as well. Something about it just felt perfect for this house. Like, it felt almost like, I mean, I don't think these houses were built of brick. Yeah, I'm pretty sure they weren't. Another thing I read was that they were usually built of polished concrete. So I don't think there would have been any brick. Well, I guess they also use glass brick, so maybe there's some brick that was used, but either way, like, something about that wallpaper just felt so fitting for this house. And here we have the dining room, which is just very over the top. As you can see, we have this massive 10-seater table in here. So to do that, I just combined two different tables together. I also use that wallpaper from Vintage Glamour Stuff in here. That's the only time I use that wallpaper, because I was trying to keep things from being too ornate, but this just felt like the right room to use that. The rug that I used was also a little bit of a bold choice. That wasn't originally the kind of thing I was wanting to go for with the rug, but there weren't many rugs that fit well under that long of a table. That was kind of the only one, and the other swatches of it absolutely did not work. So I was like, all right, we'll just stick with this and make it work, which probably was a good thing because this house definitely did need more color than it had. Because overall, this house is pretty neutral in terms of the color scheme. It's mostly black and white throughout, which was something I just felt like that suited this house so well. I just really wanted to look, I don't know, I just felt like that kind of made the house feel a little bit more formal, a little bit more modern, a little bit more impressive. But there are a few places where I did add some pops of color, like that rug, and honestly, there's probably some more places where I do need to go and add more pops of color. So you may see some things change a little bit in the fly-through at the end of the video. I'm not really sure what I'm going to do. It just kind of depends. But that is it for the dining room. So right now I'm furnishing this little powder room that's off of here. There's not really that much to it. I did use that checker flooring in here once again. And we, of course, still have that black and white, you know, that monochromatic color scheme in here. You got your toilet, got your sink, that's kind of it. But it still does look really nice. And I know that sink is the cheapest sink that's in the game. But I was looking at pictures of Art Deco bathrooms for inspiration, and I noticed that a lot of them did have pedestal sinks like that, and it did work really well for this house, so I figured why not just go ahead and use those. But currently I'm on the last room of this lower level, and I just had such a hard time figuring this area out, and also the area that's above it upstairs. Like, I just do not like open hall areas like this, and this house unfortunately ended up with a rather large one, and I thought about splitting up the room, but that would have just created a really small room and would have made the house feel more split up and less grand, so I decided to just work with it. As I've discussed in other videos, I just do not like these kinds of areas. I always get so stuck on what to do, so we just have some more seating out here, which is probably a little unnecessary, but I just didn't know what else to do. We also have a bookshelf over here under the stairs, so I add that in a little bit, so we stick with this one here. And then I just added some more vases and other kinds of decorations to that. And apart from that, we just have the seat over here and a lamp. And you will also see me using a lot of stuff from the Moschino stuff pack in this build. I just thought that kind of worked really well with the other things that I put into this build. It just feels like, I know I'm saying like sleek and modern a lot in this house, but that's just the general vibe I was going for. Sleek, modern, and a little glamorous. So the stuff from that pack definitely just mixed in so well with some of the other things that I've used. And then we just have some more of those paintings that came with the pack above there. So I actually used a swatch of it with some yellow in it. So that was a nice way to add a little bit of a pop of color to that area out there. So now we're moving upstairs, and I'm just starting off with this hall bathroom up here. It's not really the largest and grandest bathroom, but it's still pretty nice. And once again, I use that checker flooring in here. I do really like that flooring in this house. It just feels perfect for it. And then I also took those mirrors from Vintage Glamour stuff, and I raised them up to where you kind of get that line horizontally on it. Because that was a point where it kind of felt like it could look like a bathroom mirror that was up there. And then we just kind of got this corner counter over here that I'm just adding some decorations to, and that is nearly it for this room. We're just adding some towels in. This is kind of random, but I do wish we had more shower tub combo options because we have a few that are like really like kind of dated and more old-fashioned feeling, and then we have this one that I used here that feels more like 90s bathroom that I put in this house, but I didn't think like completely suited it, but it was kind of the best option, so I just used it anyway. And then we do have the Parenthood one, which is nice, but is kind of more suburban home feeling, so it would be kind of cool if we did get a shower tub combo that felt like more luxurious. But then again, like shower tub combos aren't exactly the epitome of luxury, so maybe that is why there aren't any options like that, but still, like I was just kind of hoping for something that fit into this house a little bit better. But that's a very like specific, nitpicky kind of request, but it was just a random thought I had as I was furnishing this house. But now we're on to the open area that's out here, and as I mentioned, I did not know what to do with it, and I did not want to have more seating up here because that is completely unnecessary. You know, your Sims don't need to have 4 different spaces within the same house to park their butts on, so instead of doing that, I just made a little office area. I mean, that's probably not the ideal space for an office area in a house like this, but since I did want to turn that other room into a gym, that was kind of the only option I really had. And I don't know, maybe the sim who lives here isn't really the biggest on being at their computer, so that's fine for them. And I had no idea what to do over here, so I decided why not just stick 2 of these trophy cabinets in here and just fill them both up with all these trophies. So we have a mixture of the ones from Get Famous that they can win from the Starlight accolades, and then I added some of the base game ones that were from the athletic career because, you know, as I said, this was supposed to be for an athlete, so I figured that was very fitting. And there were some that I think were supposed to be for like bodybuilding competitions, so maybe the sim also did bodybuilding competitions, you know, like maybe that's the kind of athlete they were versus like a basketball player or something like that. Or maybe they did both, or maybe they were a bodybuilder who kind of did basketball on the side. I'm kind of thinking that's maybe, although how rich can you get from bodybuilding competitions? Like I feel like maybe you'd have to have a little something else going on. So I don't know, maybe they did both. Either way, I'm getting too into the details here. But right now I'm on the master bedroom, and we just have this nice bed from Vintage Glamour stuff here, of course. And I was trying to figure out a different end table to use because I was kind of going for the Vintage Glamour stuff ones at first, but then I was like, nah, I've used that in a few places already, so we gotta figure out something else. So I found these kind of like artsy triangular end tables that are very interesting looking, and there was something that I felt fit in with this house and looked really neat. And then I also remember that we do have the Lindsay speaker. I don't know why, but I completely forgot that was something we had in the game, so I added one of those to the bedroom here and then one of them to the kitchen. I don't know why I forgot about them though, because I did that build back in, what was it, like January? That apartment where I stuck a Lindsay speaker in like every room because there was like a story with it where the person who lived there invented the Lindsay speaker. That was a fun build, but yeah, like I don't think I've ever used it since then. But either way, right now I'm creating the kind of the TV area in this room. I didn't know what else to do with that space, so we just got a TV there across from that ottoman, and then we just got a nice chair there. And then over here is a dresser area, so I used this dresser from, not this one, but this one here for vintage glamour stuff. And then after I get finished with adding the details and decorations to the top of that, I do use that one divider that came with vintage glamour stuff to kind of separate the parts of the room, and plus it was just such a cool item and something that I really wanted to try using in here, so I'm glad I was actually able to find somewhere to fit it in. But on top of the dresser, I used this vase from Island Living. I probably use that too much in the house, but it was something I felt was fitting of a home like this, and we don't have a whole lot of objects like that. So unfortunately, like when I did find some objects that worked really well for this house, I did end up repeating them a bit. Now we're onto the bathroom though, and we of course have that really nice corner tub there in the corner, and I was trying to do this thing here like I did in the kitchen where I had the checkered flooring in the center and then the marble flooring, like the solid flooring around it, but I did have to change that later on because I added this separate room in here for the toilet because that is something I've seen in nicer bathrooms like this. And once I did that, it didn't really look so good, so I did end up having to make it a solid pattern. But around the sink here, I was trying to give it more of an Art Deco feel. So we have those rounded end cabinets on, on either side of the sink, and that was something I felt just worked so well, like that rounded edges, the rounded edges and the horizontal handlebars, I felt just worked so well. And then I also took those wall lights and then had them going vertically up either side of the mirror, and that was something else that I thought really added to that feel. So yeah, really happy that that worked out because I just love how that looks so much. But now we're just finishing up the details in this bathroom, so we just got this little cabinet over here, and that is about it. So, oh right, I remembered I had to put the toilet in here, so we're just doing that, and then we just have to do the gym, and that is it for the main house. So we do still have to furnish the pool house that's out back before the end of the video, but this room didn't really take me that long to figure out. It was just kind of putting down those anti-fatigue mats or workout mats, and then we just got some various workout equipment. So we've got the weightlifting machine, although I did realize that I blocked the door with where I had it, so I had to move it to another corner a little later on. But we just had the treadmill there looking at a TV. I do like to do that in gyms, although the only problem is Sims will just walk in here and stand around and look at the TV, which is kind of annoying, but still it's something that I think works pretty well, or looks pretty realistic. And the last thing I'm putting in here is just the speaker on a table, and then I end up adding some more sports jersey decorations above that. Although I realized that I probably should change one of those to be something other than black. Like we definitely need a little bit more color in the room. So that may be one of those things that I change before the fly through. But that is it for the main house. So now we're on to the guest house. And I furnished this pretty simply. This isn't their main house. They don't really live here. I mean, if you want to use this house, you could always have someone living here. But I wanted it to just feel very simple, very nicely decorated. It's just kind of like nicely set up for someone to just come here and stay. And I did actually add a little bit of color to this room with using that bed with the blue bedspread, the blue bedspread on it. And then we of course have the blue teardrop light, or the teardrop light once again. I did use the blue color of it to go with the bedspread. And apart from that, we just have a wardrobe in here, and I originally put a TV in this room, but later on I do move that out to the living area because I was having some trouble like kind of fitting in the couch and TV area, or actually like originally I was having just like a seating area out there, but then I realized that it was kind of weird to have a TV in the bedroom and then not have one out in the living room, so I ended up just taking that out of there and then just kind of rearranging things a little bit later on. But now we're on to the bathroom, and I did the same thing that I did for the bathrooms in the main house, so we just have the same objects that I used previously. I just kept it very simple. I was imagining that, they had all of these bathrooms done at the same time, so they look pretty similar. And I do love how that pedestal sink looks in this house, but that is it. So now we're on to the kitchen, and I was actually able to fit in a pretty decently sized kitchen. And rather than trying to cram in a dining table in here, what I did was I just put in some island counters and some bar stools on those. That definitely did work pretty well for as small of a space as this. And once again, I was trying to use some of the same materials that I used over in the main house while switching things up a little bit, so it did feel somewhat varied and not too much of the same. But we're getting pretty close to finishing the kitchen here, so we're just getting the standard decorations. We, of course, gotta have that paper towel dispenser once again, the soap bottle, we got a coffee maker. So this kitchen does, of course, have all the amenities your Sims may need. And once again, not much in the way of clutter. And that is it. So we just got to finish up this little foyer area over here, and then the main or the living area, and that is it for this build. So there will be a link to download this in the description below. The build is of course finished, so if you want to add it into your game, you can of course do that. And also stuff in there on how to find it in-game in case you want to know how to do that. And that is going to be all from me, so hope you enjoy the rest of the video.
Crazy Monday, I know it shows.